leaks around your house every day. Every drop counts. When brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, preserve the water right now. Every drop counts. Save the water whenever you take in your shower. Every drop counts. They saving the water, your business every hour. The water right now. It's up to me and you and you and you and you. The water right now.
Do just one thing.
A pleasant good morning to all our listeners in Radioland and those of you in tune to us via radio, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome to the 5th edition of The Waterline. The Waterline is a radio program brought to you by the St. Kitts Water Services Department. I am Shireen Awana, and I will be taking you through the show, The Waterline, and The Waterline is brought to you each and every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. For today's show, we are focusing on improving water billing and revenue collection. The provision of a reliable supply of safe potable water is one of the core responsibilities of any government. Water services underpin our socio-economic development as it is needed for health and sanitation, as well as industry and commerce. It is expected that government would seek to recover the cost.
What we're going to do, I'm sorry to interrupt you, we're going to take a break and see if we can get that sound rectified before we continue our program.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just one thing,
Every drop counts. Make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every drop counts. When brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, preserve the water right now. Every drop counts. Save the water whenever you take in your shower. Every drop counts. They saving the water, your business every hour. The water right now. Me and you and you and you and you. The water right now.
Do just one thing.
There's a danger in our region, causing problems that can affect us all. So my brothers and my sisters, we've got to come together as one. You see this Aedes aegypti mosquito, small but it's dangerous for some. Who would think that this mosquito would pose such a threat to our region? No, spreads the virus known as Zika, plus chikungunya, and they get fever too. Yeah, we got to partner together. We're urging everyone to do their part today because together.
27 minutes moving away, or should I say moving up to the hour of 11 o'clock. Let's rejoin our program Waterline, and we do apologize for the interruption in our programming. As you were saying, your introductory.
A pleasant good morning again to all our listeners in Radioland, those of you in tune to us via radio, YouTube, and Facebook. Welcome to the 5th edition of our radio show, The Waterline. And The Waterline is a radio program brought to you by the St. Kitts Water Services Department. I am Shireen Awana, and I will be taking you through today's show. And we join you, or you join us, every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. For today's show, we are focusing on improving water billing and revenue collection. The provision of a reliable supply of safe, potable water is one of the core responsibilities of any government. Water services underpin our socio-economic development as it is needed for health and sanitation, as well as industry and commerce. It is expected that government would seek to recover the cost involved in providing this service. In St. Kitts, it is intended that every connection would be metered and customers would pay based on their consumption and the set tariff, what we know as water rates. To discuss this topic, I have in the studio with me 3 guests, and I will allow them to introduce themselves and tell us a bit about who they are in the context of the St. Kitts Water Services Department.
Okay, good morning to all. My name is Cromwell Williams. I'm the manager and the water engineer. It's a pleasure being here as usual.
Good morning, my name is Deborah Keynes. I'm the billing supervisor in the water department, and it's a pleasure being here.
Good morning to everyone in Radioland. My name is Makeda Collins. I'm the customer service supervisor for the water services department, and it is also a pleasure being here in the studio with you guys today.
Okay, well, Mr. Williams is no stranger to radio, but welcome Miss Keynes and Miss Collins. So we'll get straight into the meat of the matter. I want for us to set the tone for this conversation by giving the public some insight into the importance of revenue collection. Why is it important?
Okay, so as you said in your opening comments, Shirena, it costs the government to provide the service, and so there should be some cost recovery. Whether the government wants to go for full cost recovery, in other words, if it costs $10 million to provide a proper water service, and the government wants to collect back that money so that it can continue to provide the service, or the government would want to say, okay, well, we will subsidize or cross-subsidize the provision of water services. That's a policy decision for the government. But from us here at the Water Department and a more technical standpoint, I want to stress that for us, the importance of billing and revenue collection is not so much just about the issue of paying for the service, but it links back to conservation. In other words, we believe, obviously, if someone is not paying for the service, is not being properly billed, or on the build, or they're paying next to nothing. We believe that there is no incentive to be conservative in the way they use the water, and hence that presents a major challenge for us as the technical people providing the service, because it means that there's more pressure on us. It means that if you can use a service, any service, without having to account, in other words, your pocket feeling the consequence of your usage, then you use it anyhow. If you think, for instance, in this technological age, and we know about people having their cell phones and having data where you can browse the internet and so on. If your telephone service provider were to give you an unlimited plan, you will use data like crazy, but if you know that you have to pay based on how much data you use, you will take cognizance. So it's no different with water. Water is a limited resource. It's only so much we have from the rainfall, and hence it is important that one of the ways in which we control how much water we use is by being able to meter how much water persons are using, and hence ensuring that persons are paying a reasonable and affordable price at the end of the day.
So revenue is very, very important.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Williams, you spoke to subsidy and cost recovery. In that context, is the government making a profit on the sale of water?
The short answer is no. Water is being subsidized. I would hasten also to add that the last time our water rates were increased in St. Kitts was in 2001. So it's over 20 years since the cost of water has increased. The government is subsidizing the water, and so it costs us probably around $20 or so for every 1,000 gallons of water we put out into our distribution system, about $20 EC, and the rates spread for the domestic spread from $7.20 to $12. So that is a significant cost that persons are paying below what it costs the government to provide the service. Even the commercial rate is $15. So if it is $20 approximately to provide the service, and you're paying $15, it is still below.
Well, Mr. Williams, funny enough that you ventured into speaking of rate, because you must be reading my mind. My next question to you would have been, some persons have suggested, why don't we just have a flat rate?
I don't want to open up for that.
Well, the reason why we cannot have a flat rate is right back to what Mr. Williams says. Someone has to account for the water, and we have been preaching constantly about conserving the water. If we charge a flat rate, then the excess, no one will account for it, and people will not conserve the water. People will have the idea that, well, hey, it's okay, we can leave that leak for next month because we're only paying $20 anyway for the water. And we can't have people have that idea. We have to conserve the water. Someone has to take account for the excess, and that's the reason why everyone has to pay for the amount of water they use.
Sounds perfect to me. Sounds like it makes sense to me.
It makes sense, it does.
Now, let's shift the conversation to our customers. Of course, we have some customers who they don't own the property on which they live. They're tenants. They have an apartment. Can tenants have their own account? Can they pay their own water bill?
Yes, the tenants can have their own account with the owner's consent, of course. If they're responsible for the water, the tenant can come to our main office. That is at Needmus. They go to customer service, and there's a form that you fill out, and they can have their own water with their own account. The bill will be sent to them so that they can account for their water. So yes, tenants can have their own account.
Is there any benefit to doing this versus allowing the landlord to absorb the cost in the rent?
It's not a benefit for the water department.
How does it benefit the customer?
It benefits the customer because we have had complaints where customers do not get their bills because it goes to the landlord. Even though the landlord is not responsible and the tenant is not responsible, if the bill remains in the landlord's name, then it goes to the landlord. They don't get their water bill, they're not able to pay their water bill on time, or because they don't get their water bill, don't feel the need to pay their water bill, and that can become a problem. So that is the benefit. They get their water bill on time. We also have a portal where they can go and pay their water bill, and they can always add their email address when they come and set up their new accounts to their account, so they can get their water bill on time. Okay, speaking of water bill, give us a sense for the billing and revenue collection process that the water services department uses, Ms. Keynes.
Well, first and foremost, we start with the meter readers, because we have meter readers who go out there and read the meters monthly, and after they read the meter, come back to the office, they bring the reading in, we process it, upload it to the system, and we process with the billing. We go ahead with the billing process, and after we done do all of that, we send the bills out to the post office. We send bills out. We try to finish billing before the end of the month so that everybody could get the bill on time and they'll be able to pay the bills on time. So, but in some cases you have areas where you might have a little late incoming, but you could still come to the office and you could still ask for the bill, because even if you does not get a bill in the mail, you can come to the office and ask for the bill, and a bill will be given to you. You'll be given a bill where you could go proceed to the cashier and pay. So either way, the bill will be available.
As well as Miss Collins would have indicated earlier that they can receive it by email.
Exactly.
So essentially there's really no excuse.
No excuse. No excuse.
Miss Keynes, you mentioned at the beginning of the process meter reading. Assure our customers in terms of the reliability of the meters. How reliable is the information?
The information from the meters are reliable because the way our meters are set up, if the meter has a problem, it just shut down. So the meter reader will come and read a meter every month, and it will have the same reading on it until whenever we either fix it or we put in a new one.
Okay.
So we know sometimes people come and say, oh, the meter is not working, the meter faulty. But the meter is not faulty. As long as water is passing through the meter and it is reading, as long as it's not working, the reading is still the same.
Okay. On average, how much water should a person use per day or per month? Give us an idea. If I am hoping that going forward, maybe I was very liberal with my use of water before, but having heard Mr. Williams' cries for some weeks and other persons in the realm of water, encourage us to conserve water. Tell me how much water I should use so that I could become a very good steward of water.
Okay. A household of just 2 or 1 person shouldn't use more than 30 gallons of water per month. Of the 50 gallons of water per day. There's no need. A household of about 4 persons, we could go to maybe 60, 70 maybe. Anything over that, it becomes waste. Because we can conserve water. Because all we have to do, brushing your teeth, turn off the pipe, you're washing dishes, turn off the pipe. You want to water your plants right now, it's dry season. You can fill some buckets of water and you get a little cup and you water your plants.
Okay, I'm happy that you ventured into talking about watering the plants and all of that. The 50 gallons that you mentioned, does that take into account things such as watering the plants? And washing your car as well?
Yes, you just use a bucket. A flint 5-gallon bucket of water. You don't have to go the hose. You want to wet down the hole. Send back the water to the aquifer.
Okay, so how much should a typical domestic household bill be? The figure.
We have $20 to $23.60 per month for somebody like a household of 1 or 2 people. Shouldn't be no more than like $25 most. Shouldn't be. Outside of that, 30, 40. If I get a bill for $50, it's time for me to start looking for leaks because it shouldn't be.
Okay. But colleagues, I'm going to check in to see if we have any callers on the line. And if so, we'd want to open the line to hear from our callers. At the moment, we don't have any callers on the line, so we'll continue with our conversation. And just a question. Tell us a bit more in terms of some things we can do to keep our bill at bay, to keep the bill low. What can we do? Give me some tips. You are the experts.
Okay, so it is always important to know how many gallons of water, how much gallons of water a typical household should use. Like Miss Kane says, we have the information at the office, so the information is available. You can come to the office and find out how much water you're supposed to use for your particular household. Now, if you have given the information and you realize that you have gone over that, then you know it's time to start on the inside. It is always important to check for leaks. The toilets can be one of the most headache things, because people feel like sometimes when you hear that noise, it is supposed to be that way. That is how a toilet is. It's always important to check for if the water is running in the toilet, because most people think that that is how the toilet is supposed to be. But if you have not flushed the toilet, if you have not used the toilet, and you open that toilet and the water is still moving in the toilet, that is a leak. You must check for.
That's something that I did not know.
Yes.
Makita.
And at the, and at the same time, they have some leaks in the toilet that we call a silent leak. You don't even know that it is there. You might just, what I do time to time, I will get like tissue, and you just put that tissue around the inside of the toilet bowl, and by the time you put it there, you do so, it's filled with water. So then you say, no, something is wrong. It's not supposed to happen. And then there is that leak. It's a silent leak that you would not even be aware of, and it's just going nicely.
And so then, because it's a silent leak, and then Makita said there are sounds that we don't identify with and recognize that it's a leak, it's important for us to then monitor our usage then.
Yes.
So my question to you is this information available on our bills, on the printout?
On bills, if you get a bill every month, you open your bill. Some people don't. You open your bill, and when you look at your bill, your gallons will tell you something is wrong. Because if you're getting a bill for $20, and then next month you get a bill for $30, okay, and then the month after you get a bill for $40, something is happening. You should realize that something is happening. It's time to ask a question. If you're not sure, you could come to the office and you could ask a question, and we will direct you in the direction that you have to go. Definitely. In terms of checking for the leak, or send somebody to help you to assist, to evaluate what's going on.
In terms of having a question, we have someone on the line who would like to make a contribution.
Okay, we have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to the water line.
Very pleasant morning to you.
Good morning.
I would like to make a little input and then follow up with a question. The whole question of water being disconnected at night from around 9 p.m., 10 p.m. thereabouts.
Caller, we're not hearing you too well.
Yeah, I am saying that the whole question of water being disconnected from homes, from people's homes, somewhere between 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. 9, sometimes 9:30, before 10 p.m. the water is disconnected at our homes. I can speak to my area because I live in the Buckley site area, that is the St. Johnson's Village area. Right? Are you hearing me better now?
Yes.
Right. So my question is, since most of the water produced by the water department here has been tapped directly from the source, in that we no longer see the flowing rivers because you have tapped all the rivers in order to produce the water that is distributed to consumers throughout St. Kitts. We may probably see one or two ravines flowing, but we do not see the rivers like before, and I'm pretty sure that is disheartening to a lot of the people who in the past went to catch crayfish. But nonetheless, it has been a good water service throughout the day here on St. Kitts. So my question is, why does the water department, why do you have to cut off water at 9 p.m., 9:30 p.m., going up on 10 p.m. in the evening time, and then the water comes back sometimes around 4:30, minutes to 5 thereabout? The reason for my asking that is there are people who work up to 10 p.m. There are people who finish work at 11. And when you finish work after a hard day's work, after having spent probably 8, 10, 12, sometimes 14, 16 hours on the job, when you get home, you want to have a shower. You want to have a proper shower with running water. So my question is, why does the water department cut off the water at that point in time in the night? Isn't there a way around that so that you can allow the water to flow throughout the night and allow people to have access to water at night when they come from work so that they can have a proper shower to prepare themselves to have a proper sleep in order to get ready for work the next day? Because it's very inconvenient, very, very inconvenient when you come from work and you cannot have a shower. I mean,
Okay, caller.
Yeah.
We take your question. Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Yeah, want to thank that caller for that call. It's a very important call, cuts to the heart of the issue. And the simple answer is that this we started doing some years ago, maybe around about 5 years ago or so. And that is because, unfortunately, we simply don't have enough water. We did not ensure that the supply kept abreast of the demand, and so the demand has outstripped the supply. We therefore have to close down in some areas in the Bastia area. We therefore have to close down at nights so that the reservoirs can build up overnight, and so that in the morning when we open, everyone have an opportunity to have water. If we just leave it and don't close down at night, what will happen is that the reservoir will build up overnight as most people are sleeping, yes, but it will not build up to an adequate level. And so it means that when you open in the morning, most persons will have water, but very soon after, in a couple of hours, most of the persons on the higher levels will be out of water because the reservoir would have then practically emptied. So it's a matter of using the reservoir to balance out the system, so to ensure that as much persons as possible, not just those on the lower levels, but as much persons as possible have water for as long as possible, and that would be basically during the daytime as much as possible, going into the evening.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
solution, the solution is that there is an urgent need for significant investment in providing additional water. Some of it we will get from groundwater, drilling more wells. However, in the Bastia area, we know that that is not possible. We cannot develop further wells in the Bastia area. It means therefore that in the Bastia area we're going to have to look at desalination, and that is needed urgently.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We seem to have another caller on the line. Caller, you're on the water line.
Yes, greetings, love, yeah. Serious concern. I'd like to ask, concerning those cruise ships that come to our shores, I'd like to know if we have to supply them with water, and what the amount of water, if so, and the cost. Yeah, respect, love, man.
Thank you, caller. Mr. Williams, I turn that question to you.
We have not been providing water to cruise ships in recent years. Simply, again, because we do not have enough water to provide to the cruise ships.
Okay. Okay, we don't seem to have any more callers on the line, so we go back to our conversation. Before we segued into the calls, we left off speaking on leaks, particularly toilet leaks. If my bill has been increasing and I assume it's due to a leak, would the Water Services Department give me an adjustment on my bill? Can I come in to see you guys to discuss how I can get an adjustment?
That's a conversation that can be had.
Okay.
That's a conversation that can be had.
So,
but it's based on a one-on-one level. It's not
okay, so
across
it's
the board.
situational.
Situational, yes.
Okay, so it's not a guarantee that if I say my toilet seems to be leaking, I come in, I see Miss Keynes, Miss Collins, or maybe if I run into Mr. Williams in the supermarket, I ask him about it. You know, Mr. Williams, my toilet seems to be leaking. This is not like me. I typically have a bill of $25. Something has absolutely got to be wrong. can I come in and get an adjustment? It's not a guarantee that you tell me yes because my bill has been low all the time. That's not an answer for it.
No.
You have to come and perhaps look at my situation, where the circumstances. That's the case.
Yes.
Right. And just to share some knowledge, most customers, they feel that, you know, they come to the office and they say, well, I have a leak. I can prove that I have a leak. We go and we check, we see the increase. If you ask to get an adjustment, you cannot get an adjustment when you find the leak. You have to fix that leak first, and there is a 3 months grace period. The reason why we use a 3 months grace period is we have to make sure that your consumption and the reading stay low for those consecutive months in order for you to be able to request the adjustment. Okay. So it's not where you can come and say, well, I have a leak, so fix my bill. No, we cannot fix a bill or do an adjustment on an ongoing problem.
Okay.
You must be able to
rectify
provide proof that you have that leak, rectify that leak, and you must give us a 3 months grace period in order for us to give that adjustment if approved.
I want to emphasize the fact though that there is no obligation on the part of the department to make any adjustment for leaks. We, as was mentioned, we may exercise some discretion in depending on the circumstances, but there is no obligation. Customers must understand that they are absolutely responsible for every drop of water that passes through their meter. Once that meter is correctly functioning and recording, if it accurately records that 50,000 gallons pass through your meter in that month, you are responsible for that water. It means therefore that persons must monitor their bill. You know, make sure you check your bill every month to see what's happening.
Okay. We seem to have another caller on the line. Caller, welcome to the water line.
Hi, good morning again. One of the things I think that the water department should emphasize and try to advocate as much as possible is to encourage new home owners, new home builders, people who are constructing new houses, to ensure that they make a cistern a part of the construction. I spent some time in Trinidad back in 1989, and the cistern of the house that I lived in, the house that I stayed in for the 2 or so weeks I stayed in TNT, was beneath the kitchen floor. So in other words, the floor of the kitchen was the covering of the cistern of that house. So I think one of the things that you should emphasize and try to push as much as possible to encourage new home owners, people who are building new houses, to ensure that they put cisterns in their houses. Because look at the amount of rain that we have sometimes. Look at the amount of water that flows down College Street Gut. Has the water department ever considered what they can do to tap into all that water that comes down College Street Gut? That's millions of gallons of water. I think that is something that you folks should consider going forward.
Thank
God
you,
bless.
caller.
Have a blessed day.
You too, thank you. Mr. Williams, I think this is almost a constant theme every time we come back for the show. People encouraging us about cisterns.
Yeah, that is something that is before the government, more or less. Something we constantly have discussed on the Development Control and Planning Board, physical planning, which deals with the approval of plans and so on. And yes, that is something that we're all on the same page, that we need to start moving in this direction. And sometimes it takes force to, as we say, force make water go uphill. So it will probably, you know, just force people to take that action in time to come, when persons realize that, you know, not just in St. Kitts, but, you know, globally, water scarcity is something that is going to be more and more of a challenge. Just want to mention with regards to what happens when you don't pay your bill and disconnection. It is something that the law gives us the authority to disconnect persons who are in areas who have not paid their bill for an undue period of time. It is something that has not been actively pursued by the department, but we have decided that we have to change that culture. We can no longer afford for persons to be going years. There are persons who have gone years without paying a water bill, and that is unfortunate. because it does not speak to proper and sustainable management of the water resources. So just want to alert the public that, it's not that we feel that persons have money. We know that some persons are in dire straits as a result of the COVID and so on and so forth. But at the same time, we have a serious responsibility also to ensure that the water is properly managed. And that means accountability. That means encouraging persons to pay their bills. If you have a bill that is a couple $1,000s, we're not asking you to come in and pay it all, but start somewhere. Come in and make a payment arrangement plan. But we have to start somewhere. We have to change the whole way in which many of our customers have been dealing with water in terms of ignoring their water bills. And so we have to change that culture. Water is too precious right now for us to just feel that we can use it anyhow and we don't have to bother with the bill and so on and so forth. We're changing that paradigm.
Okay. I don't think we have any other callers on the line. So, Mr. Williams, we're gonna wrap up the show with one last thing. We've introduced online payment just last year. Are there any other plans the Water Services Department plans to bring on stream? Anything that you're hoping to do?
Well, what we would like to see happening is, as part of the whole modernization of dealing with water, on the customer side, we want to be able to introduce what we call automatic meter reading. Not that our meter readers will be put on the breadline, of course not. They will be repurposed, retrained. But the time, has come. The technology is now more common, where we don't have to send out our workers in the hot sun to read the meters and so on. But we would have to change out the meters and put in a more modern meter that can be read remotely. You can stay at the office and read the meters, and that will help the customers significantly as well. Your bills will be more on time. It will be a better quality of meter that will be less likely to become dysfunctional. And so we want to start making plans to introduce automatic meter reading and allowing our customers also to be able to access their account, so that they can see their accounts online and so on.
All right, before I let you all go, there was a question via social media that I didn't post to you. The question is, if you're living in a house and you move to a next house, who's supposed to pay the water bill in the house prior?
Okay.
Repeat the question.
They want to hear the question once more.
The person asks, if they're living in a house and they move to another house, who's supposed to pay the bill from the last apartment?
If the person left the bill at the last apartment, they are responsible for that bill. Now, if they cleared up their bill, they have now moved to the next apartment, then it is the person who moved in or the landlord, if there's no one there, responsible for that bill. But if the person leaves a bill, they have to clear that bill. They're responsible for that water.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. No other callers on the line?
We have one more. Do you want to take the last final
Let's
call?
take that last call.
All right.
Caller, welcome to the water line.
Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, goodness. Nice to hear you speaking about that. Because what happened, I do not $20, They can't find. I so glad with the gentleman just to put on a meter where you could, what they could see. They got to be ashamed. $20 I went in the other day. I just bought past briefing with a cousin of mine. I said, well, let me go and ask. The lady said 2 months. I just paid $40, $100, cool. $20, I don't know what happened to them because what happened, you all got to go. You ain't supposed to go behind people because the meter there. They do it so good they used to put it right by your fence. So when the man come by, he's who walking, he's who doing the checking, maybe do not go. So that's a good idea, to bring that one there to right from the office, and you will see, and people waste water. I have a good old friend, I come waste in water my yard. I say left the water, you know your water scarce. You know your water does go down every night. Left your water, the flowers them not dead. It's a bad it's okay. Yes, you are doing a good thing. You know, me hear somebody the other day. Last day, me water, me look at 700. 700, you say? Why want we 700 and 7,000? Water, electricity. But when they hear I'm calling nobody for them, the form them selling out. They buy the door since 3 in the morning. That's a good thing. Take care of a morning over here.
A good man, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla. I think this was the perfect note for us to wrap up the show. You've been such a good advocate for us, and thank you for being a very responsible consumer and customer, paying your bill on time and recognizing that the fee that you pay is a nominal fee. Thank you so much. As we close, we remind you that you can save yourself the hassle of finding parking and the time standing in long queues by paying your water bill online on our website www.water.gov.kn. And we also remind you that for inquiries you can contact us at 467-1005 or 467-1447, or you can email us at water.services@gov.kn. We want to thank you all listeners, for joining us this morning on the Waterline. Thanks to those of you who called and engaged in meaningful discourse, whether it was to ask a question or make a suggestion, or even in the case of our last caller, give us a little compliment. Sometimes that is necessary to keep us going. We thank you for propelling us to continue to do our duty, to not just be a service provider, but a #1 quality service provider. Join us again on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month. As we sign off, we hope that you will be with us again for our next edition of the Waterline on Wednesday, April 27th. Thank you.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just one thing,
Every job come, make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every job come, when brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, preserve the water right now. Every job come, save the water whenever you're taking your shower. Every job come,